That's all right, don't worry.
You're very organised, got my stuff ready for me. Okay, you good?
I'm good.
Right, so first of all I'm preparing all of the flowers and foliage that I'm using. I'm stripping any of the greenery that's going to be below the handle part of the bouquet, just so it makes it slightly more comfortable to hold, and it also gives a neater finish when you put the finishing onto the handle, whether it be hessian, ribbon, lace or whatever you use. I'm just preparing all the flowers and foliage first before I use them. I'm laying them all out in their individual sections. And this is mint that I'm preparing now. This particular bouquet has quite a few herbs in it. It has mint, it has some rosemary, and it has some sage in it. When you have a very special occasion like a wedding or a really prominent event in your life, it's amazing how evocative fragrance can be. You tend to, years later, a certain fragrance you'll come across and it'll actually remind you of that day. So having mint and rosemary and all the various other fragrances that are going to accompany this bouquet, hopefully in years to come when the bride smells these herbs, it will make her think of her wedding day. On a slightly more, how can we put it, slightly less tactful note, years ago in the Victorian times, brides would have a nosegay of herbs which a flower girl would scatter in front of her. So as she walked on them, she would crush the herbs and create a lovely fragrance, which actually take away from the awful personal hygiene that she had. So it has its historical, I have to say, that's definitely not the case with this bride. She is lovely. Okay, so putting all of the lower leaves into the bin. Starting to get a reputation for being an untidy worker here, so they're all going into the bin tonight. So we've got all mint. This is Veronica that we're using. Also got rosemary. Now, rosemary in a wedding bouquet represents remembrance. So if you have livestock there, if you have a family member or someone that's passed away that you actually would like to remember on your wedding day, by putting rosemary into the bouquet, that kind of signifies the remembrance aspect. So, it doesn't have to be something prominent. If you just want to acknowledge that person, just a little tiny sprig in the back of the bouquet, that will do that. And ivy in a wedding bouquet signifies the bonds of friendship. So if you put ivy into a wedding bouquet, it's supposed to signify that ring that's not broken. Another connotation for ivy in a wedding bouquet represents fertility. So, maybe brides that would really like to have a big family put lots of ivy in.
It's not going in my bouquet.
It's too late for me. Okay, so just finishing off trimming all the stems that I'm going to use. And then we have sage. So, bouquet is going to be almost good enough to eat.
Literally.
And then just to add some final fragrance. Whoops, sorry. Sage is actually, this time of the year, it's actually producing quite a lot of oil in the leaf. So you can actually feel, when you're pulling the stems away, you can actually feel the sage oil and smell it. It's beautiful. Okay, and finally, just some dried lavender that I'm going to pop in. Again, beautiful lavender fragrance. Right, and I need some olive foliage, which I
Popped in the fridge.
haven't got. So we'll go
It's in the cut store, it's okay.
I've got some eucalyptus to go in as well. And again, this is Eucalyptus Cinerea. I'm also going to use some Eucalyptus Populus, which is this one that has the lovely seed heads on it. Now, the brief for this bouquet is textured and rustic. Now, the more varieties of foliage and flower that you add, and the more texture that you add, the more of a country garden rustic style bouquet you get. If you tend to stick to one or two varieties, keep it very simple, you get a much more classic, contemporary appearance to the bouquet. Alright, so laying all my flowers in here. I'm just going to pop into the fridge and go and get some olive. Shan't be seconds. I'll let Laura entertain you.
So hi everyone, thank you for joining our video. I'm not going to turn it around on me, I'm just going to show you these beautiful flowers that we've got in the fridge today, in the floristry room. So just to explain, we are creating a lovely bouquet, a bridal bouquet for tomorrow's wedding that we have for lovely April. And we are just creating a handheld bouquet. It's very rustic, textured. As you can see, we've got lots of lovely foliage, and we've got some beautiful lilacs with the roses and with the hydrangea here. We've got some Eryngium thistle, just to add an extra texture to the arrangement. And we've got, as Debbie was saying, we've got some Populus, Eucalyptus. We've also got some Cinerea. We've got some Veronica at the end there, just to add a different texture and a different look. But keep watching, just because she will give a step-by-step guide of how to create a handheld, hand-tied bouquet. If you have any questions, if you want to ask anything for an up-and-coming event, or you want to ask anything about what she's doing, please comment below. We're happy to answer all of your questions. We tend to do a live every week. So if you're learning or you want to know if you've got an event coming up, stay tuned over the weeks to come. Debbie's back, she's got her olive branches.
Yay, olive. Without the olives, I could say the olives go really well with gin and tonic, but we're going to get ourselves a reputation for being gin lovers if I keep this up.
We have.
Okay, so I think we're there now. So as you can see, all of the flowers I have prepared, ready to use. This little piece of eucalyptus. Just put enough right. There we go. We've got a bit of a combination of single stems and branches. Again, that adds to the rustic appearance to the bouquet. Now, I have got quite a few bits and pieces here, so we're going to start. I normally start with something that's going to give me quite a substantial stem for the centre of the bouquet that the bride can then hold on to, and then work round in a spiral. So starting with the rosemary and the eucalyptus, and some of the mint. Or eucalyptus. And I'm going to start building up with the flowers, adding in as we go along. Notice I've got a mark on that one. Okay, so basically we're building it up as we go along. The flowers in. I don't want it to look too contrived, I don't want it to look too set. I want it to look as though it's something that you could have just gathered and put together yourself. I'm trying to keep the stems all in a spiral form, like you would do with a regular gift thank you bouquet. Trying to keep a reasonable balance of colour throughout. So you can see I've got my balance of 3 Veronica there. The roses I've used on this occasion are Ocean Song, think Nightingale and
Memory Lane.
Memory Lane, thank you.
Okay.
It's been a long day. So as you can see, adding as we go along. I wish we'd got sort of almost smelly vision here. You could smell these herbs because they are absolutely fantastic.
The room smells amazing.
I'd like to think I could take credit for that, but no, it's the flowers. And as I was saying, the more texture that you add, the more of a rustic country garden appearance you get. Okay, some mint going in again. And some more rosemary. Don't be afraid to have some slightly longer stems and some shorter stems, so you get a little bit of recession within the bouquet. That works really well. And it's good to have some of the flowers separated by the foliage, because then your eye picks up on each individual flower. If you've got flowers that are very close together of the same colour, your eye tends to just see them as one block, so you don't get the beauty of each individual bloom. I'm going to add my dried lavender in little clusters rather than using it in individual stems, simply because you notice it's slightly more if it's in a cluster. It tends to get a little bit lost if it's just one single stem.
So with the roses, do you get rid of the majority of the foliage on the stem?
Yeah, I normally take away all of the foliage that's kind of below the tying point. That would be pretty much what I would usually strip a rose to, because leaving some of the upper leaves on helps to nestle the rose within the bouquet. I've actually been a bit vicious with this one and stripped all of the leaves off. A bit too keen, but it really doesn't matter because we've got such a foliage content within the bouquet anyway.
Yeah. You don't need that.
You won't really notice it, to be honest. A little group of dried lavender.
So with the dried lavender, when is the fresh lavender available?
That's a really good question because it has a really unpredictable season. Usually May time you get some fresh lavender, sometimes June, but we'll get it 1 week when you think you should, and then the next week all of a sudden it's not available, so it's really difficult to predict with the lavender.
Very short season.
Very short season.
Very short season.
Yeah, very short season and a very unpredictable season as well.
But we do also get this dried lavender, which has an amazing scent to it still, and it's got a
to be
look to
fair,
it.
I would say it's obviously, I'll do a little close up there. I'd say it is a slightly inferior product to the fresh, to be honest, but it does still give you the fragrance, still gives you the colouring, so works really beautifully, tied in little bunches as place settings with a bit of rosemary as well.
That's true.
Something like that. If you tied that together with a little tiny piece of raffia or a little piece of hessian, would work beautifully as a place setting. And if the rosemary is nice and fresh, there's no reason why your guests couldn't take it home at the end of the night and possibly plant it, and then they've got a little memory of the day.
We've got Faye asking a question. She says, I find my roses start turning brown after removing them out of the fridge. How do we prevent this?
Okay. What temperature is your fridge controlled at?
Is it a fridge or is it a...
Yeah, is it cold store or fridge?
Or a cold store?
Because ideally a fridge should not be below, or a cold store should not go below 8 degrees centigrade. If it is below that, then I would say it's a possibility you're getting some kind of frosting on the petals. in which case it's too cold. Does that help?
She had 5 degrees.
Yeah, that's a wee bit too cold. I'd try and keep them in a slightly warmer temperature than that.
And it's a fridge.
Okay.
Fridge.
Yeah, so I would recommend that you up the temperature to 8 degrees if you can. We don't store anything here lower than 8 degrees, so a wee bit too cold, I would say. That, to be fair, that's what's causing your browning on the petals. Okay, so you can see how it's starting to form. Lots of texture, foliage and flowers at slightly different heights, which again adds to that rustic appearance. So still trying to maintain that slightly spiraled appearance to the stems, and trying to keep to one tying point, because it actually makes it much more comfortable to hold when it's finished. If you've got stems going in at different angles and at slightly different tying points, it actually makes it quite a clumsy bouquet to carry, and the balance is not quite so good. Balance on this is really comfortable to hold. I can't get over how beautiful this smells.
I know.
I do wish you could all smell it.
It's like a herb garden.
It is actually, yeah, it is exactly that, just like a herb garden. I'm trying to turn it on its side slightly so you can see where I'm going with it.
Works really nicely with those hydrangeas. It does.
Yeah.
Just those colours.
Just brings the
Yeah.
colour out, doesn't it? Okay. So we're not far off finishing. Okay. Obviously, when you're creating a bouquet for a bride, there are several elements that you need to take into consideration. One, most importantly, is her size. Obviously, dress size and height will have an impact on the size bouquet that she carries. For example, if you were to create a bouquet for a 6'2" girl that's a size 30, you wouldn't want to do the same size bouquet that you would for a 4' nothing girl that's a size 0, because one would be camouflaged and the other one, the bouquet just wouldn't work with the dress. So that's something to bear in mind. When you're creating a bouquet for someone, make sure that it actually is suitable for their size and their personality as well. They're all things obviously you take into account when you have the initial consultation with your bride.
What does this say about April's personality?
This says that she is a very country-orientated girl that likes natural, peaceful, harmonious things, rather than too funky and spiky. And if she's watching this is created with love and care.
Hopefully she's not too stressed out.
Absolutely. I hope by now she's actually on a glass of something sparkly and cold and chilled.
Absolutely.
Oh, well, there we go. Back to alcohol.
We're not alcoholics, we promise.
So just adding another little. Oops. Just put my piece down. Okay, so just adding the last few roses now. I just need. And if you look at the profile, the side of the bouquet, you want it to be rounded and you want the sides to curve in. You don't want it to be straight up and across the top. You want it to have a natural curvature around the side. Otherwise it doesn't look natural at all. Oops. There we go. I think I have one more rose to use. Yes, I do. Excellent. And then I always recommend showing your bouquet to yourself in a mirror, because the mirror's reflection shows you what other people are seeing rather than what you see close up. So by holding the bouquet into the mirror, you'll actually see what the whole world sees and what the photographer sees.
Very true.
Right, well, I think we're going to call that it, and I'm now going to tie that off. Now I usually use, I'll just put some, just to tuck those little bits of olive underneath. That just helps to have almost like a little frame around the outside of the bouquet. I'm just going to tie that off. Now I normally use twine. I'm just going to find some twine. After we go.
Multitasking here.
Absolutely. So just tie bouquet with twine. And as I said to you at the beginning, just the one tying point. So you can see how neat and tidy that is. Just leave that bit out of the way. And you literally can hold it and it's really nicely balanced. Now I'm going to cover that tying point with some pop tape or anchor tape. That's basically just to cover up the mechanics really. There's nothing particularly romantic or technical about it. It just literally covers up your tying point. Just helps to keep everything that a wee bit more secure. Now if you're using a ribbon or something that's actually going to be quite fancy and going to be quite a long way down the stem, and you're putting into water overnight, now I would leave that part of decorating the handle until the morning, and these could be popped into a bucket of water and just finished off in the morning, not a problem at all. I'm only going to be using some hessian on this one, which literally is just going to cover the tying point. So I could actually do that tonight and then still have the rest of the stems in water and it'd be quite happy. Now I personally always put the decorative handle on first, then cut the stems to the correct stem length. Other people do it different ways, it's just personal choice really. And I'm going to finish this bouquet handle off with some pearl pins. So, as I said, this is a very simple, very rustic bouquet, so we don't want anything too wildly elaborate on the finish. And the more rustic, the better. Then I just cut the end off. I'm actually going to tuck in the rough end of the ribbon. Oops, a bit heavy-handed there.
And then with the
pins,
you go up
into the bouquet. I'm just going to trim that scruffy piece off there, and that scruffy piece off there. You can add a few more pins, so it looks a little bit skimpy with just the two. So I'm just going to add another 2 pins into there, so we've got a total of 4.
As you can see, what Debbie's doing is using the pin and going up the bouquet as opposed to right across.
Now, traditionally, you should use 3s to signify the past, the present and the future. So by having 3 pins, that represents all 3 parts of the bride's life.
I never knew that.
I'm just so full of
Did you just come up with that?
So if you imagine that you're holding that bouquet, and then I normally just put 2 hands worth and then cut it. So that's exactly what I'm going to do now. Very tough stems on this bouquet. I hope you all notice, audience, that I'm actually cutting into the bin tonight. I get brownie points for being tidy.
It's very clean in this room, to be fair.
It's because I haven't been here this afternoon. There you go. Now there's no reason why that can't go into a little bucket of water and sit quite happily overnight. And there you have your rustic wedding bouquet.
Lovely. Can we just have a close-up as well? If we just have a look at the roses, because sometimes it can be hard to see over on the website just to see exactly what they look like. So just to give you a visual.
This one's Memory Lane.
Lovely. It's got a really nice pink, almost petal edging on the outside, but it is a lilac rose. Really nice one.
This one's Ocean Song.
Ocean Song, a true lilac rose, as we like to say.
Opens quite quickly, that one. And
Nightingale?
Find Nightingale. Nightingale's there.
Lovely little, another lilac rose.
Nightingale's probably slightly pinker than Ocean Song. Ocean Song's definitely a bluey lilac as opposed to a pinky lilac. And then I would say Memory Lane is slightly pinker still.
Yeah, similar. Lovely. Brilliant. Has anyone got any questions before we head off? But that is our lovely how-to guide on how to create a hand-tied bouquet.
And handheld.
That is handheld, hopefully. No, I don't think so. You kind of match the bouquet, Debs, with your pink.
Oh yeah. See, colour coordinated, especially for this evening. Yeah, right.